For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss democracy under scrutiny. Welcome, Professor. Are you not stating the obvious when you say that arguing for popular democracy does not mean that representative democracy is no value?
Well, it's not obvious because there are many writers, and I've often referred to this, that historically democracy only meant popular democracy. The Greek word demokratia, I think it is, means the people govern directly. And some writers like Claude Ake, a deceased African writer, said that the word representative democracy is a contradiction in terms, because if democracy means direct action by the people, you can't be indirectly represented by people. And I think there's similar views expressed by Jacques Rancière and Ellen Mason's Wood, who point to the fact that when the American Constitution was formulated, in the discussions beforehand, and it's recorded, they indicated that they wanted to reduce the popular will in the American government process, that they wanted through representative democracy, which was not a term, nowadays we view it as the only meaning of democracy in most cases, but it really only became popularized after that and became, in many cases, a term viewed with approval, whereas in earlier times democracy was regarded as a dangerous problem because the rabble would come onto the scene and rule their betters. So it's not obvious, but what I try to explore in this article is whether being represented does not perhaps have important qualities, and how do we make those important qualities work in South Africa? For example, if representation means that you bear the imprint, you bear the image, you bear the aspirations of those people who voted for you, that is what we should be striving for, that the relationship between the people who vote and the people who represent them is one of connectivity, one of empathy with the people whom you represent, so that representation is, in a sense, a way of making them present in the political domain, so that we would want a situation of compassion with the voters who are represented. Now, what you have in the 1950s is that Parliament is viewed, and I quote in my article a song that they used to sing at the time of the Freedom Charter. Chief Lutuli, Dr. Dadu, Dr. Nike are going to go to Parliament. And what Dorothy Nyembe says there is that these people are going to represent us. Now, what they understood by that is that these were leaders whom they trusted and who would be accountable to them. Now, before the word representation can have a meaning which is one of connectedness with the voters, there has to be this accountability, this sense that you trust people and that they come back and account to you, the voters. Now, clearly, the difference between then and now is that there clearly is not the level of trust that there was in those times, but secondly, there is not the accountability as we've seen in many cases.
And was your article not an attempt to return to the RDP's reference to people-driven and people-centered democracy?
It was partly in my mind in the sense that when the RDP was established, it was expected that we would have parliamentary democracy, although some of us didn't think that there would no longer be substantial popular democracy as well. But it's important to understand that that democracy in relation to the RDP was not understood purely in an instrumental sense, in the sense that you only need democracy and you only need the state to make other things happen in the economy. Democracy is a value in itself. And this is what I wanted to bring out, or I've tried to bring out in my book as well, that although my book does not deal with socio-economic change in detail, democracy is a means for achieving that, but that's not the only reason why we want democracy. We want democracy because the people should govern, that they should have their voice heard, they should express their voice as far as possible, but if it's not directly heard, it should be heard through others. So people-driven and people-centered I did have partly in mind, as long as we understand that democracy is not just a means to an end, it's a value in itself which must be respected, strengthened, deepened and broadened.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Crima Media's Polity about democracy under scrutiny.